أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Hopefully a very stimulating driving evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Huma Bakai, and on behalf of IB, I welcome you. I'll be your host for the ceremony this evening. We'll formally begin the ceremony with the Tilawat of the Quran, and I will invite Muhammad Umar Irfan to come and do the honors.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعاديات ضبحا فالموريات قدحا فالمغيرات صبحا فأثرن به نقعا فوسطن به جمعا إن الإنسان لربه لكنود وإنه على ذلك لشهيد وإنه لحب الخير لشديد أفلا يعلم إذا بعثر ما في القبور وحصل ما في الصدور إن ربهم بهم يومئذ لخبير. صدق الله العظيم. Translation: By the steeds that run with panting, striking sparks of fire by their hooves, and scouring to the raid at dawn, and raise the dust in clouds the while, and penetrating forthwith as one into the midst of the foe. Verily, man is ungrateful to his Lord, and to that he bears witness by his deeds, and verily, he is violent in the love of wealth. Know ye not that when the contents of the graves are poured forth, and that which is in the breasts of men shall be made known? Verily, that day their Lord will be well acquainted with them as to their deeds and will reward them for their deeds. Sadaqallahu al-Azim.
Jazakallah. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we are doing this at Upper Auditorium today is because some time ago a man joined IBA who thought he was not only going to rebuild the infrastructure but the entire thing. I will now ask that man to come and speak to you, Dr. Ishraq Hussain, Dean Director IBA, for the keynote speaker.
Robin Chase, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real, indeed, a great privilege and honor for me to welcome our distinguished speaker of this evening, Robin Chase. And the reason I'm grateful to her is that under the current circumstances, when I was telling her how many people had agreed to visit us and then back down at the last moment, she's a courageous person to persist and to fulfill her commitment to us and IBA and to the American Business Council. We are very grateful to you for that. especially mention one person who made it possible for us to have her in our presence, and that is Spenta Kandawala, one of the class fellows and friends, close friends. And thank you, Spenta, for all of it. Including a late night telephone call to the embassy in Washington, D.C. for the visa, which was, getting a problem in getting in time. So we are very grateful to you, Spenta, for all this. In human history, there have been many occasions where doom and despair and despondency have overtaken the intellectual thought process. And those of you who remember the Malthusian thinking, that there will be a time when the growth of population will overtake the whole resource availability, and there will be a doomsday scenario as far as the mankind is concerned. What is the situation today? The developed countries are now struggling in order to retain the younger population in the labor force, because the aging is moving at such a rapid speed that there will be not only a stagnation but a decline. And by 2050, the world population will become stationary at 9 billion, around that. Why is that such a change in the thinking process? More recently, those of you who are familiar, a very distinguished group of scientists at MIT and other places produced a report in 1972, Club of Rome report. And the Club of Rome predicted that the end of the century, the natural resources, including oil, because oil prices at that time were going up, will just be depleted, and the humankind will be left with a disastrous scenario. But what happened in the 1990s? The prices of all commodities at the end of the 1990s, in real terms, were much lower than what they were in the 1970s. And what is the point I'm trying to make? Is that the human ingenuity and human mind in forms of innovations has been ahead of the natural resource depletion or other forces. And one of such persons whom you are going to listen this evening has done exactly that. As you can see, turning a scarcity into abundance. She took a simple idea, and she will explain, I'm not the right person, and make it possible to have a new way of transportation which has revolutionized the whole industry. And there is a Harvard Business School case study, and I'll just quote you the abstract from that, just for my MBA students, so that they can go back and read this case study. Zipcar is a startup organized around the idea of sharing car usage by a membership organization. This case describes several iterations of the Zipcar business model and financial plan. These include a very early version and a version developed just prior to the launch of the business, as well as data from the first few months of operations. The students are called on to analyze the underlying economics and business model for the venture and to discover how these assumptions are holding up as the business is actually rolled out. The teaching purpose is to understand the notion of a business model and unit economics and flow through the impact of actual operating results. So I would recommend the MBA students to go back after this lecture and revisit the HDS case study of Zipcar, because that will give you some idea, particularly those who are thinking of entrepreneurship should pay a lot of attention to this particular case. I am an eternal optimist, and I think if people like Robin Chase are multiplied across the globe, in all parts of the world, the pace of innovation, not only just technological innovation, but what we teach our students, that is how to organize their resources and the interface between these resources from a point of view of efficiency and better utilization of these resources through the organizational innovations itself is a part of the process which will ultimately lead humankind to find solutions to the challenges and the problems we are facing. For example, climate change is now haunting all of us, and I'm not as pessimistic as a lot of environmental scientists are about the response to the adaptation and the mitigation challenges of climate change. We would find solutions. They may be slow in coming in, they may be costly to begin with, but eventually we will find solutions to these problems. I don't want to prolong my own introductory remarks because you have all come here to listen to a very distinguished personality, and I want to thank you all for coming in. And to my students who are here, please take this lecture very seriously because you won't get many occasions like this. So I hope that you will pay attention to that. Thank you very much.
The journey from a ride-sharing community to a car-sharing company has made Robin Chase the global thought leader, and I will not be between you and her. I'll right away invite her for the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Robin Chase.
It really is a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited and not scared, really happy to be speaking with you. I speak to students and business leaders around the United States and increasingly around the world, so it is really my enormous pleasure. And I feel like Dr. Hussain and I, it's almost as if we were mind reading each other. He didn't see my presentation, but we're saying many of the same things. When I was doing Zipcar, I had asked for customer comments, and one person said that Zipcar was the zeitgeist of the moment, and I didn't know what the word zeitgeist meant, so I had to go look it up. It's some obscure German word that is the moment of the spirit of the times, and I feel like the things I'm talking about are clearly the spirit of the times because you were saying the exact same things. I feel like, so these ideas are ones that are coming forward. And we also got this customer comment that said, everything you say is true, which I loved. I put on my office wall so that all my employees would know everything I say is true. And my children, I want to put it at home so my children would know. But clearly, everything I say is going to be true because he just said it for you again, so between us.